That's the question to start. More relevant for some than others, but how do you thank Elohim for your mother? How much do you pray to Elohim about your mother? That seems to be an irrelevant question, but it's not. In honor of Mother's Day, I want us to change our relationships with our mothers, if they're still around. Grandmothers, if they're still around. Stepmother, if they're still around. And our wives, if they're still around. And they also are mothers. Sometimes we have to go to Elohim and confess of the way we've neglected these women in our lives. And sometimes we don't know that until they're gone. There is no second mom. And sometimes you can lose them when you're young, and you'll never know how much you've lost.
Yes.
You can gauge it from others, but you'll never know how much you lost. Others have drifted apart from theirs, and they're still here. Bridge that gap before it's too late. And if you get to do that, if you do, not forget to definitely don't forget today if you're Sabbath keepers, or tomorrow if you're not. And those who haven't thought that way, you do remember where you are, don't you? It's a house church, but it's still a church.
That's right.
That's right. That's right.
And you get more here in the house, and you will at a lot of churches.
Yes, yes.
Drop anchor at 1 Timothy 5. Not going to get too deep today in some ways. Others, the depth is still going to be there. 1 Timothy 5th chapter, the 2nd verse. Older women as mothers, younger women as sisters, in all purity. Deuteronomy, the 5th chapter, the 6th verse, the 16th verse. Respect your mother and your father, as Yahweh your Elohim has commanded you, so that your days are prolonged, and so that it is dwell with you on the soil which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you. The world is changing all the time.
Oh, yes.
And all those changes aren't good,
No, 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 no.
especially here lately. The changes are not good. Everything is changing. And that's something I learned from politics. One of the things that divorced me from it.
Oh, yes.
Every change isn't good change.
Mhm.
Especially in a world that worships a demon,
Yes.
calling him a god.
Mhm.
But the changes are coming from this demon and his minions in the media. And everyone is falling prey to them, whether they think so or not.
That's
Continue at 1 Corinthians 15th chapter, the 33rd verse. Do not be led astray. Bad companionships ruin good habits. We don't think that way anymore because a lot of mamas don't teach that anymore.
That's right.
Good ones, they used to say that all the time. Be careful who you run out with,
Yes, yes.
hang out with, run around with. Mothers used to tell this to their children before they ran amok and started killing their parents for refusing them anything.
Yes, yes.
And I mean, that's just not talking here. And it's not always the old ones that well, put it this way. Sometimes the old ones know better than the young ones. They found a baby on a garbage can the other day, and they took a couple of days to find out that the child and her 16-year-old, the girl was 16, her boyfriend was 17, and they hid the pregnancy as long as they can, and they eventually found it, and they went to his mother, 38 years old, and she told them to hide it. And then the story is not straight yet, how she developed the conscience, but they then took it to the fire station. It's the fire station, y'all. And they did a DNA test on the baby, and they found out that her alleles so perfectly matched up with the baby that it almost was hers. From this, they lied to him, and that they then found that it was hers, and then she came clean on everything. And now, definitely, the mother and father are getting a small ding in the ratings. But also, they're deciding to do something with the mother, the grandmother, and she otherwise would have done the right thing, but she lied first. And Chicago police already are in trouble about that, about another little case of someone lying to them a little while back. And they are very conscious of this now. And otherwise, they would have let her go, because they're now finding that a lot of the people that come to them lie to them. And this is not something that they will put up with for much longer. And I don't know what's going to happen, but the baby is getting stronger every day. And that's probably going to be the thing that saves them, if they are saved. That the baby will die, live. If it doesn't, all bets are off. But the way things are looking, he will live. But this is the world we live in. That now it's okay to leave a baby at the fire station. What's wrong with raising it? Or crossing your legs until it's time to do that. Oh, that's telling a woman what to do with her body. Mama used to do that. Mama doesn't do that anymore, because your kids will kill you now for telling them the truth. It has always been a fascination to me how the stories of biblical characters have always been distorted somehow to justify the distortions of the modern world, as if these distortions come from the Bible. It's more important in these times to lift the self-esteem of this generation than to tell them the truth. The examples found here can lift our faith in Messiah. So we'll go back in time to 4 BC or so. Luke, the 2nd chapter, 1st verse. In those days, a decree went forth from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be registered. That's taxed to you all. This registration, with the first registration when Quirinius was the governor of Syria, and all went to be registered. This was one way that Caesar was able to shake down the already enslaved Judeans, knowing that they were coming to Jerusalem to keep the Feast of Tabernacles, and surely brought money and goods with them. Caesar chose to tax them and increase his coffers by taxing their festival tithes, according to Roman law. And Joseph also went up from Galilee, from the town of Nazareth, to Judea, to the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the lineage of David. I'll get there. To be registered with Mary, his betrothed, who was with child. And he had no qualms about saying that. With so many these days doing it the same way, but not from God. They understand that a little better, but not the way it's supposed to be understood. And while they were there, the first time, the time came for her birth. And she gave birth to her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling cloths, and laid him in a manger, because there was no place for them at the inn. Now it becomes a little more familiar to you. Time-wise and event-wise. And in the same region, there were shepherds out in the field, keeping watch over their flocks by night. And an angel of Yahweh appeared to them, and the glory of Yahweh shone around them, and they were filled with fear. And the angel said, "Fear not, for behold, I bring you good news of great joy that will be for all people. For unto you this day is born, this day in the city of David, a Savior, who is Messiah and Master. And this will be a sign to you. You will find a baby wrapped in swaddling cloths, and lying in a manger." And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host, praising Elohim and saying, "Glory to Elohim in the highest, and on earth peace among those with whom he is pleased." When the angels went away from them into heaven, the shepherds said one to another, "Let us go over to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, which the Master has made known to us. And they went in with haste and found Mary and Joseph and the baby lying in a manger. And when they saw it, they made known to all, saying that this child had been born. This child, and all who heard it wondered at what the shepherds told them. But Mary treasured up all these things, pondering them in her heart. And the shepherds, returning, glorifying and praising Elohim for all that they had heard and seen, as it had been told them. And at the end of 8 days, when he was circumcised, he was called Yeshua, the name given by the angel, before he was conceived in the womb. And when the time came for their purification according to the law of Moses, they brought him up to Jerusalem to present him to the Father. There's so much proof here that Yeshua and the family originally kept the Mosaic law, not according to the Pharisaic tradition, but according to Hebrew knowledge. A slight but very important distinction there. Yet it is ignored in the modern world. And they make this any old time in history, usually at the end of the year. And not the end of the year, folks. We so seldom see these verses read. Yet most of the time, the profoundest roots of them, our belief systems, are right here. Scroll down to verse 39. And when they had performed everything according to the law of Elohim, then returned they into Galilee, to their own town in Nazareth. Note that it says here that they followed the law of Elohim. A slight difference that we might note well. Also note that they came not from Galilee to Jerusalem, but from Bethlehem to Jerusalem, where Mary gave birth. And her time of purification now just expired. Now did they go north, directly to Galilee? Or if they did, they soon came back again to Bethlehem. Soon, here, the wise men found them 2 years later. When by a divine warning they went into Egypt, where they remained until Herod's death. after which they came back into Israel, into the parts of Galilee, and dwelt at Nazareth, for which reason it is here called their home city. Verse 40. And the child grew and became strong, filled with wisdom. And the favor of Elohim rested upon him. Now his parents went to Jerusalem every year at the feast of Passover. And when he was 12 years old, they went up according to custom. And when the feast was ended and they were returning, the boy, Yeshua, stayed behind in Jerusalem. His parents did not know. But supposing him to be in their group, they went a day's journey. But then they began to search for him among their relatives and acquaintances. And this is another thing that we note here, that it wasn't a small family here. And when they did find him, they returned to Jerusalem searching for him. After 3 days, they found him where? In the temple, sitting among the teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. And all who heard him were amazed at his answers and his understanding. And when his parents saw him, they were astonished. And his mother said to him, "Son, why have you treated us so? Behold, your mother and your father and I have been searching for you in great distress." And he said to them, "Why were you looking for me? Did you not know that I must be about my father's business in his house?" And they didn't understand that completely at the time. He told it to them. And he went with them and came to Nazareth and was submissive to them. And now he was all of 12 years old, no longer a baby in a manger. And his mother treasured up all these things in her heart. And Yeshua increased in wisdom and in stature and favor with man and Elohim. We learned a lot. That the family of Joseph kept the holy days as a custom. The family of Mary and Joseph kept the holy days as a custom that apparently this was quite widely known and done at the time in Judea, despite the tight-fisted rule of Rome in the region. We've also learned that Mary had quite a lot on her hands, initially with Joseph, but by the time Yeshua was fully grown, Joseph had died. And despite religious traditions that state otherwise, Mary had other children. Note here that it is clearly stated that she had other children. Mark, the 6th chapter, the 2nd verse. And on the Sabbath he began to teach in the synagogue, and all that heard him were astonished, saying, "Where did this man get these things? What is this wisdom given to him? How are such mighty works done by his hands? Is not this the carpenter, the son of Mary and brother of James, Joseph, Judah, Simon, and are not his sisters with him?" And they took offense at him. "Oh, there's no perpetual virgin here. Mary had at least 6 other children with Joseph, along with Yeshua. Now, it was rather common in couples of this generation. Anybody in a rural situation had a lot of kids. Some of us had mothers had the same thing that were grown up in the South. Somebody had to pick all that cotton. We don't talk about that much nowadays. It was rather common then. A family with 7 or more children. And that is not an easy job. It's tough enough now with 1 or 2. In a nation that lets them run amok and then arrests them for the money. The state of the world makes it incredibly challenging. My respect goes out to all mothers who successfully raise their children in these morally abased times. Violence in the streets, guns everywhere, guns falling out the air practically in the inner city anyway. Gangs in the streets. Schools handed out condoms and birth control without parental consent, and teaching sex education, including homosexuality, in the classrooms. And a whole lot more. They teach them now that it's okay that mama didn't tell you what you were. That means you can switch it later if you want to. Wild world we live in. Wild world we live in. Most of your pop songs sing of love. But if you listen to the lyrics, you're really singing about sex. The movies, all violence, and each one gets more violent than the other. And I was watching a movie yesterday. Oh, that wasn't a movie. That was on the streets of Los Angeles. Man hanging a cannon out the window and shooting at the cops, getting away from them. It looked like a scene from a movie. People were ducking and dodging, and the man finally got into that traffic that never comes in the movies, but the traffic trapped him, and they shot him several times. And they captured him. They did. The only one that walked away from the car was the driver. And this is a result of all of these movies. Die hard, die hard, die hard. That was stupid in itself. How many people have you seen come back? All deaths are hard. It's in the magazines. The violent games that are now on our phones. Grand Theft Auto. When you win, you reach a certain plateau, and the thing you win is a picture of a naked girl on your phone. And your kids are playing this stuff. Mothers are challenged to raise children in this physically and spiritually toxic environment. And in many cases, either there is no father in the home, or he's unable to earn enough to make those ends meet sufficiently that the kids do something themselves. And everybody's something is different, and I will speak to that. Your own something you put in there. And if it's given respect at all, respect is given rather backhandedly to fathers in this situation. The statistics tell us why. Most children with both parents actively in the home never land in prison. I'd say that's an example that should send men running somewhere for a healthy example. For their own lives as well as their children's. But it is necessary to hold up correct examples in the Bible and turn away from the loose lives offered in the world. When this is done in a home of belief, both parents respect it. The world doesn't respect this, however. The father is a throwaway in the modern world, which explains much of the insanity, and on another level, altogether, explains the dearth of men here in the church. And I will deal with that fully on Father's Day. I haven't done that in a while. And this one, I was researching that one, and somebody had a fascinating angle to that why black men aren't in church. I'll bring that in a few weeks on Father's Day. It's fascinating. I don't agree with it all, but I'll give myself a few weeks to come at it the right way. That is not a conversation for today. God's plan was for both the man and the woman to know their roles in a family setting. It is statistically proven that children have a far better chance in this world with the balanced input of two believing parents in the home. Even if they stray, as most of us have at some point, as we learn better, we do better. If the balanced teaching of a biblically grounded mother and father are there, the child will eventually find his way back to, if not the truth of Elohim, at least to a truly healthy sense of what is right and what is wrong. We all see around us what happens when this is not done. But the mother is the one that has the most contact with her children. Thus, here is the centering influence in the child's life. And I hear mothers nowadays bragging that they have no parental skills. I hadn't had anybody brag about that successfully. I heard a preacher that I won't name say that in a sermon he gave at the prison recently, that Mary herself, mother, was a single mother. And you all go out there and find a mother to parent with. What? I don't tell you who that was, but I won't bring them down like that. But I do wonder what he was talking about. Mary was no single mother in any sense of the word. Joseph was right there, and his natural father was right there. And both of them had input. Where else did he learn the Bible the way he did? The things of God the way he did. And we have learned for so long that he didn't have a home. He had two. He built one. I'll show you that one day. Not today. I told you all I wouldn't be here long today. Well, for me, this isn't long. Mary is in some circles, again, given a rank that is not biblical. And Reverend did it one way, I almost said his name, but I won't do him like that now that he's not well. This in no way diminishes the stature, the true stature of the mother of Yeshua. Her place in history is assured, and her place in the kingdom of Elohim as well is assured. But even in his darkest hour, her oldest son thought of her. John 19th chapter, 25th verse. John 19th chapter, 25th verse, and it says, and his mother and his mother's sister Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene stood by the cross of Yeshua. Then seeing his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing there, Yeshua said to his mother, "Woman, behold your son." And he said to the disciple, "Behold your mother." And from that hour, the disciple took her into his home. The truth is resisted in this evil world, but the Judeans chose wrong also. Judeans chose Yeshua Barabbas to spare at Passover because they had in their minds a better chance to free from themselves Roman domination in this. As they turned on Moses while he was on the mount with Yahweh, this is not new to them. This has been their history for so long, the Judeans and their Elohim. Truth is always resisted. We hope that this will change in the days to come for those who will allow it. The world is falling apart. It's falling away from the word of Elohim. Truth is resisted. And the world continues to fall apart. And it takes strong families of faith to resist that onslaught. The sin that is tearing at the very fabric of our society. The family itself is calling it out, railing against it. It may be cathartic sometimes and make us feel good that we are somehow above it, but we're not. No one has gotten there yet. The final test is coming. The sins of the world have engulfed us also in little ways. It starts at the White House and has dripped down to the outhouse. And all of us, in some way, have been affected by this. Some have been bound in it. We only pray for it to change before we are all caught up in it. We are told by this society that this is new and exciting. All of these sexual nuances that they bring to us now. This, be a woman today, and you'll be a man tomorrow, and something else the day after tomorrow, of your own choosing. This is exciting. This is new stuff. Sexual freedom. But we need to know that it is not. It started with Adam and Eve and has been relentless ever since. Note what Elohim told us all in 1 Kings, the 19th chapter. He doesn't need us. We want to have him. He doesn't need us. Check this out. Yet I have left 7,000 in Israel, all the knees which have not bowed to Baal, and every mouth which has not kissed him. He doesn't need us. And the Apostle Paul had this scripture in mind when he declared it in Romans, the 11th chapter, the 4th verse. But what is Elohim's reply to him? I have kept for myself 7,000 men who have not bowed the knee to Baal. So too at the present time there is a remnant chosen by grace. You want to be there? Somebody will be there for you. We are all called. And then after being proven, we will be chosen. But so many over the years have fallen away and given in to this world's way. And many castigate others in such vile ways and words. They erode the effectiveness of their own message, going after somebody else. You'll never get in on somebody else's back. You'll never get in there on somebody else's back. And that's not a good way to do it. They sound like the world, cursing and framing their anger and their political partisanship of the day into something they liken to the gospel. No more of that. We all have had mothers with us. I had mine for 19 years or so. And she will be shocked at the way I turned out. But even I'm not there yet. The bottom line is this. Mother, a woman who fears and obeys Elohim, should be celebrated. For if a woman is sincere in her fear and obedience to Elohim, and mine was, though she didn't know him by the Sabbath day, but what she did know, they passed on to us. And I left it for myself. Left of it for myself. I don't have it perfectly right, but I do have a strange habit of doing what's there, not here. Here will fail you. This won't. If we aren't of the world, why do we try to do it their way? I will do my level best to get there when my mother rises in her time, to be there to see her again and guide her in any way I could to make it up to that next level. The plan calls for that in the willing. If you do this the right way, emulate, and strive after that woman found in, what is it, Proverbs 31?
Yes.
Follow her and get what she gets. And improve on even what she tells you. Imagine if all mothers and fathers did this. How different the world would be today. With that thought in mind, I say to all of you, Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.